Dave Cass, the Director of Education.
And I'm Pascale, the Director for Online Education.
And what we thought we'd do is to try and make this as effective as possible for you. We're going to start with a very short presentation focused on these two courses rather than the general history of MSM. And then we'll go, after that, straight into questions, and we'll leave as much time for questions as possible. Just remember to type them when the questions come up, and then we'll deal with them on a case-by-case basis. So we'll go straight into the presentation. To come up, the agenda I mentioned already as we go through this, that we're focusing on the two of our business courses. So that's dealing with the Executive MBA, so that's really my side of the house, and then moving on to Pascale, who will talk specifically about the Online MBA. So if we're looking at the Executive MBA, you'll see on the slide here, it's a very simple graphic for you to try and understand how the system works. So just imagine the pattern you're seeing is a bit like a racetrack and you jump on a bus. So on the left-hand side, the green, imagine somebody is starting our course in January 2019. Now, each of these colored segments represents a quarter of a year, and so when you get to the end of the colors on the right-hand side, that's the finish of year one, and then you would come back and pass through the gray sections through another year to then start again. So our MBA is on a 2-year cycle. Now, if we just look at that first green arc, that represents that first quarter, within that period, we would have one training module, which would comprise of 2 courses. And the point here is that starting in January, we would have an 8-day period where you would cover 2 courses in the one module, 4 days each. And then for the rest of that quarter, you have time to then do your assessments and prepare for something that will be assessed. Then we go through the next part, the red, which would be the next quarter, another 8-day period, and then you'd have the rest of that period to do your assessments, and so on and so forth throughout the cycle. Key thing to remember here is that just like a bus, stopping at bus stops, and the bus stops here are the January to October, so when people can come onto our program. So people are already traveling on this course, if you like, you jump on the bus and join them, and then some way through your 2-year period, people will be getting off the bus because they'll be graduating and having written their thesis. One other point I think is important, we had a question, a pre-arranged question about this is, well, what happens if I have a problem with one of my exams? So normally what we would do is the exam, you sit your assessment and you have to hand in your assessment before you start the next course. In this case, the green curve, at the end of it, you've handed in your assessment. Normally after about a 3 or 4 week period, the assessment would be marked, so you will have already done the initial part of the next course before you find out the results. And the point here is that there is an opportunity for a reassessment, so a new test, if you like, that would be in that period. So we try and keep that pattern as quick as possible so it doesn't build up. You can imagine if people start having problems on the course, you're going to build up of present work to do, plus preparing for a past exam or a past reset. So that's what we try and avoid. And the second important part is, well, what do I do if, and it happened last year, was a classic example, my sister's getting married, it's in the middle of when I would be doing a module, whatever it was. And of course, we're flexible. That's the whole point of these courses that we're doing. So you would have 2 options. One, you could wait for 2 years for the cycle to come round again, and that's perfectly okay. Or there may be an opportunity to come here, physically here, and join our full-time MBAs. Or we can somehow try and manage extra training if it's possible. Or if you were to do the basic elements of the online, it may be possible with an online as well. But the message I'm trying to get across to you is it's a very flexible program, but has to be taken seriously that you do have to program your work in and around these 8-day periods that are blocked off for people to come here in Maastricht. And I think I'll probably keep the briefing of the EMBA cycle just to that, because we actually have an awful lot of details on our website. So If you haven't already looked at it, please do, because that will answer most of your questions. And now I'll hand over to Pascale to talk about the Online MBA.
Thank you, Dave. So I wanted to go a little bit to give you a flavor of the Online MBA, and I will go a little bit more into details, but not too long, because we really want to hear your offer time for your questions. So let's talk a little bit first about the structures of the Online MBA. So it's the Online MBA is aimed to be a mirror of the on-campus Online MBA. So the duration is also 2 years, as Dave was saying before. It's also offered twice a year, but the dates are different. It's not October and June, but it will be November and May. So every November, every May, we offer, we have a new intake for the Online MBA. It's 70 CPS, as the same as the on-campus, and including business communication, which is aimed to be an introduction course. We have 15 courses, exactly the same, and we will see in the next slide very quickly. This is exactly the same as the MBA on campus. Now we offer 2 specialization online for the moment. In the future we aim to offer more, but at the moment it's accounting and finance, international business and sustainable development. But also anybody can, there's the possibility to join the on-campus specialization, either the business related or industry related. And the final work is either a master thesis, a consultancy project, or a business plan, as with the on-campus. This is, I will go very quickly on that, but this is the courses, 15 courses that I was talking, plus the specialization that are offered. And the final assessment as the thesis, consultancy project, etc. So let's look at a little bit the structure and the feature of the Online MBA. So each course, so let's clarify, the Online MBA offers a lot of flexibility, but also as a structure, because we know that it's important to offer students some support and not leave a student on their own. So each course is structured on 4 weeks, divided by unit, and we will see. I will offer you some snapshot to give you a flavor. And the learning design developed for the framework developed for the Online MBA. So we start with a general description of the modules, offering the objectives, the aims, the learning outcomes, etc. of each courses, and then we start to gain attention. What we aim with gain attention is get you excited about the subject. So with animated video, with lecture cards, with different type of media. When you get enough excited, then we present a little bit more in depth the content. So it's there that you will be invited to do some reading, so the essential reading and also additional reading with different either textbook or articles or papers, etc. Then the third step, we ask you, after you got excited, you read enough on the subject, to start thinking about and transfer the knowledge as well and discuss it with your peers. So it's not a lonely journey, the Online MBA, rather than working with your peers and with faculty. There is always a faculty. So there will be discussion board with reflective thinking, but also journal entry where each of you will reflect what they have learned, how it has an impact on the practice, work practice. And also we don't have exam, but we have a final course assignment. And finally, the last step is we like to offer you as well that you are able to self-assess your knowledge, so to see where you are with your progress with multiple choice questions. Okay. I would like, we have here a couple of snapshots. How is the environment? Because I'm sure that many of you are thinking, how is it, how it looks like life. So this we took an example of the marketing class, and where you see the first introduction with the module objective, learning outcome, etc. And then you have the 4 units, so the 4 weeks. Here would be the animated video and with gain attention, what I was saying before. Okay. Here would be the snapshot deep down, so the lecture cast, which is a movie. You would have your reading materials, and then here would be the discussion board with a simulation. We like to use a lot of simulation. In this case, it was to do a marketing plan, and the quiz to self-assess. Since this is unit 1, so week 1, the final project would be in the last unit. Maybe just a few words about the application deadlines. So the online MBA is offered the 10th of June, the next start of the program, and the deadline to apply would be the 1st of June. And
yeah, so you can read there the deadlines for the program, because the Executive MBA in January starts the 19th, so you basically it's just over a week from that deadline there. And actually, the other point is that our courses would then be starting in October 2019, and whilst that has a deadline, there's another important aspect which is on the website, which is the early bird. So therefore you can get some reductions on the fees if you apply and pay the fees before a certain date. So again, if you get onto our web line, have a look at that. Intuitively, if you're trying to join a business school, you should business-like, so take advantage if you can to save yourself some money.
I think now it's time for questions.
Yep.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to answer your questions. I think we have quite few that already, okay, there are quite a lot. I think, I'm just reading. So one question is about the credit, how long the credit would be transferred or valid. So I think it's 5 years from the first registration of the program. Let's see, more questions.
One thing that questions that come up are, is there a difference in the quality and standing of our courses online? And this is something that absolutely isn't so. It's one of our main points, is that if you're coming here on a full-time or part-time, there is no beta course, if you like. We're going for high quality faculty teaching, high quality coursework for teaching on both, and they're of equal quality. That's one of the major selling points, funny enough, of our courses.
Absolutely. Another question, what is the weekly load for each of the programs in hours?
Okay, it's quite concentrated on the Executive MBA. So for the 8 days you're here, you're working in the classroom for full days, and there's no question about that. Having said that, it's not death by PowerPoint. That's not the idea. And in fact, if you think about it, we are here to create leaders. I say this all the time. We're not here to create managers. So we need people who are good at interacting, not just passively listening to a lecture. So we're using case studies, we're doing discussions, we're providing coursework throughout the week on my course. And I think another point that's important is that for our work, 70% of the work will, for our accreditation requirements, 70% would be individual, and up to 30% can be group activities as well. That's important to know. Yes.
And for the online MBA, it's counted between all the activities, so the reading, the discussion, etc. It's an average of 20 hours per week. Obviously, there will be some weeks that you will have less, and some weeks, especially when you have the final assignment, probably you will have more hours, but an average of yes.
Mohammed's got a question for you for the online MBA to do with exams.
No, for the online MBA, there is no exams. It's the final assignment. So actually, the grades are divided to the discussion board every week. The count as well as the final grade, but also as the final assignment.
I think it's fair to say as well that part of the assessment for the online is the participation. That's a heavy part of it as well. So that's important to understand.
Yes, it's 40%.
Yeah.
40% and 60% is the final assignment. Yes, there are live teacher So what we have is you have asynchronous. So you have some time where you are with your teacher. We use a software called Zoom, and where you have the couple of sessions with the faculty and discussing and explaining, etc. But also within the class, in the discussion board, you have the faculty participating as well, helping to reflect, and you get to receive feedback also for activities like the journal entry that is not assessed, but you get feedback as well from. So a lot of feedback is offered. And as well, of course, there is the faculty as well available.
There are two questions, one from Mohammed and one from Nikolai, to do with the Executive MBA. And the first one, Mohammed, yes, our training for the 8 days is physically here at Maastricht, so that's what we do for the 8 days. And for Nikolai, if you wish to change from the executive to an online, it's possible, but we tend to be asked that if it's almost like a blended option, we call it. And it would be, if I'm not going to be able to make a course or a module, could I then do the online course? The answer is yes. However, critically, there is a requirement to do one course before anybody studies the online.
Yes, absolutely. Business communication, which is the foundation course, in order to get used to the environment, and so yes, whoever wants to join the online, first start with on campus Executive MBA, then we'll do the business communication, which is 4 weeks later.
Sure. I think also we mentioned that our courses are the same. We are also teaching our degree at many partners across the world as well. It's the same degree. And in fact, I remember we've had one student who was doing one of our courses and said, yes, but I'm going to be with work in, I'm not sure which country it was, any country you wish. Yeah. I'm going to be there for that period. They're teaching that course. Could I join that course? And then we were teaching that course. And we said, yes, of course, because it's the same quality, it's the same standard. We endorse it. So that's how flexible we can be with what we're doing.
Also, it's another question, if the online MBA is accredited by NVIO, the Dutch government. Yes, it is, the same as with the Executive MBA.
Also, you mentioned, or there was a question about exams. We don't tend to like going for exams rather than real assessments of activity, because really that's what's happening in real business life. But we also transfer that to what we might call the final assessment, if you like, or the thesis, because we have three options. There's the classic academic thesis. There is a consultancy project, which is an option. And I see actually quite a lot of people that are doing the Executive MBA choose this option, partly because they're already working within a company, and so they see it as perhaps a way of a quid pro quo with their bosses, so they're allowing them a certain amount of time off or a certain flexibility of work, so they do a consultancy project within the company they're working for because it's useful for both parties. Also, you have the in-depth knowledge, so you may be able to get quality data for doing that consultancy project. So that's one. Also, some people choose to do the consultancy project in perhaps a sector or a company which they're not working with. And sometimes with the Executive MBA, that gives them a chance to look into a sector where they may want to go. The whole purpose of getting the MBA is to think you're moving into a different sector. So it's a way of testing whether you really want to go that route or not. And the final one, but I should caution, is by far the hardest, is the business plan. Most people think it's the easiest. We have to, both with the consultancy and the business plan, satisfy two masters. You've got, the business plan might be as if you're for a bank or money for a sector, or for a consultancy would be a client. But we have a second client, which is proving for an academic degree, so to be given a master's degree, that you have gone through the academic rigor and proven the research and that you've used the correct methods and applied the tools which you've been taught throughout the year. So a consultancy and a project management are two non-standard options, if you like, but very focused to business, but you have to understand that they are quite difficult. In fact, for the business plan, the recommendation is unless you're really going to be doing this as a business and therefore take everything seriously because you plan on really setting up that business, then go for one of the other two options.
Yep. Yep. I see another question is about the book list. If it's possible to get a book list. Yes, if you're interested, we can give you for the first module the title of the book, of the textbook that we use, and a few articles. It's not yes, that's not a problem. In order to get an impression what needs to be studied.
Yeah, and part of what we do as well with our courses is we use a platform called Moodle. If you haven't used it or heard of it, it's an education, online free education software that we use, and we preload our courses, certainly on the Executive MBA side. So we kind of mirror some aspects of the online, and we try and ensure that a certain date before the course starts, all the course material and the course manuals are there, so actually if people have the time and ability, they can prepare themselves long before the course. I have another question from Nikolai, and what's included in the specializations of both programs? The summer schools, or summer specializations if you like, 2019 are the first 2 weeks of July, but then in 2020 and from then on it will be the last 2 weeks in June. And we've done this to fit in with requests from our students actually to try and avoid from the summer holidays. So that's why that's there. So over that 2 week period, you would be options would be sustainable international business and sustainable development, entrepreneurship would be one. So if you look online, they're actually detailed there. But we also have industrial focus specializations. Healthcare would be a classic example of that. But the important thing is that when we are selecting people for the industry courses, because we go out to industry as well and offer these courses to people who are not just on our MBA programs, we insist that if you wish to go to healthcare, that you actually come from a healthcare background. And that's really important for the rest of the people in the course as well, so that you are bringing a level of competence to that healthcare course, or it could be the sports specialization. And for 2020, we're also introducing supply chain management. So there are 3 industry-focused courses. For the online?
For the online, it's slightly different in the sense that they will be online, but we offer at the moment 2 specializations. One is international business and sustainable development, and the second one is accounting and finance. And for each of these specializations, you would have to follow 3 courses. So for instance, international business and sustainable development, you would have a course on green innovation, another one on value chain and fair trade, and the third one on sustainability in global economy. So it's all online, so you would the same flexibility, the same structure as you would have following the year of your learning journey. But it's slightly a bit longer than the 2 weeks on campus.
Yeah, and Nikolai's asked, is the specialization here on campus? Yes, it is here. If I use last year as an example, we had 110 students from literally from one side of the planet to the other, all coming here, and people who are not studying academic courses, business leaders coming to join our courses as well because of the quality of them. What we are doing is looking at the future, but this is some way ahead, and discussing with one of our partners, or certainly a few of our partners, the possibility of offering our students specialization courses, which may be done in those countries as well. So we don't, at the moment, our specializations are here on campus, but we're looking at options where people may wish to go to MSM Romania, for instance, because they have a specific type of specialization course.
We have a few more questions about for the Executive MBA. If somebody has a PMP that is exempt from project management courses.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure on whether the PMP does get you credits for project management. That would be up to our academic coordinator, who is responsible for the whole of our MBA program, to do. Where I've been seeing transfers before, but it's been from one academic program to another rather than a professional qualification. But it's a good question, Mohammed, and I will ask that, and we'll get back to you through our team. I've had a question again about the Executive MBA. If somebody wants to apply and take advantage of the early bird, but wants to start in 2020. Well, the course that would start, we obviously have a January 2019 course starting, but we have an October 2019 course starting as well, and then a January 2020. So you need to look at those options. You were suggesting that you would want to join on the January 2020. If that is the case, then there is a different early bird setting. I think it's actually sometime, you have to check on that. But if you look on the website, it's actually very clear what the early bird is for the October 2019 course and the early bird for the January 2020. So those are your baselines for the early bird. One important thing is though that for the early bird it's a full payment. So you need to, if you're applying for a course, remember that there's a certain amount of time required to go through the processes of interviews that we have, because we're a selective establishment, because our degree is highly valued. Our placing on the world rank is extremely high. I kind of jokingly say that I want to see the 1%ers. The question is, are you in the 1% that's coming here? So just because somebody has money and a wish to be here doesn't get you in. We need high quality people. Therefore, if you're applying and you're wanting early bird, you need to remember that there will be a series of interviews, then a letter will come out, and then it would be a period of time where you would then be responding and transferring money. So I always say to people, plan in advance when your application would be in, and assume at least 3 weeks before the deadline for an early bird, you have actually got your application completed and in with us. Is it possible to pay the fees in installments? Yes. We see that all the time. However, if that is the intention, then what we need to do is have an idea as part of the application of what your proposal is, and then we have a whole finance department that would look at that and say yes or no. Critically though, for the early bird, then you have to meet those requirements, and I can't stress enough, it's like a guillotine going down. So 5 minutes or 1 day after the early bird, you've missed the early bird. So you need to plan ahead. MBA tuition fee 2018, DDF, yeah, DDF is applied to all our MBA courses, is a question from somebody there. Anything from your side?
No, I see a question about is diploma work experience what is more important? I think
they're actually both critical in this. First of all, to do a master's degree, you're expected to have a bachelor's degree beforehand. Now, there can be exceptions to this. In fact, I can think of an example. We're teaching in Yemen, for instance, and it's been hard, perhaps, to actually achieve a bachelor's degree there, but somebody may be in a senior management position and have been for some time, or a director, in which case we do part of the review. We're looking at how much work experience and what level is that person working at, so you can have almost like a vocational degree as part of it. And this is really important as well overall when we're talking about work experience, because it's not just you passing your MBA, it's you being in a course of other people who are going to be learning and gaining experience from you. This is the value added of our course with people from different sectors and different parts of the world. So if you have a whole course of people who are at this level is where they're operating, which is what we're aimed at for the MBA, and one person who's really down here, they will stand out as a cuckoo and they will not be able to engage properly in the course. Also for our accreditation requirements, so to be AMBA, and accreditation is really important when you're looking at any business school, to look at actually who has externally graded them and gave them accreditations on quality. And for our normal courses, that's 3 years is the minimum work experience that we're expecting from people. And actually for the Executive MBA, we're expecting 5 years experience. And the reason for that, again, is that the Executive MBA tends to attract people who are on that sort of senior level, some of them, or many of them, hoping to break through to director level, or going from middle management to senior management, and they see the MBA as an important aspect of them being able to operate with senior partners or senior managers at their level. And we also see it quite a lot with people in specific sectors, so in engineering or pharmacy, where you've been an absolute specialist, dealing at the core face at the tactical level, but now you're needing a broadening to be jumping up into much more of a management level. But we need for the overall course to be of value. It's not just the faculty that add to this course, but you yourselves to the rest of the people in your cohort.
Also because many activities and in the discussion board, in the online MBA, are based on exchanging with and reflecting about work practices. So it is important that to have been exposed to some organization working experience.
Got a question about the early bird. Can it be combined with the country-based scholarships for the DDF? Yes, absolutely. Actually, anyone who comes out to our program, I do the final interview with them, and I decide on the scholarships that will be awarded people. So you can look on our website now, and you can look at the course, and if you click and put which country you're a passport holder for, where you come from, then you can see immediately what the DDF, how that would affect the overall fees. Then early birds would take it down by a certain amount more. What I can say is, though, that the maximum we ever reduce to for our scholarships is 50%.
Yep. So we take a last question.
Yeah, I think so.
The grades, Nicola is asking about the grades in the diploma, if they are more important than work experience.
Actually, if you mean by people applying and therefore the grade, excuse me, of say a bachelor's of something, then actually I did not. Whilst it is in there because you don't only have to prove that you've got your bachelor's degree and the work experience. There's also a requirement for a motivation letter, and actually that's the most important thing that I look at. The rest are: does a person have a bachelor's degree? Yes.
Exactly.
Accredited. Exactly. Am I looking at whether you've got a distinction in your bachelor's degree? No, but it's obviously nice to have, and usually people would mention it to motivate. But for me, critical is the motivation letter. Partly as well is because I need to judge the quality of you as much as I can do in the interview that I have. We have many people that apply to come on here, and actually the motivation letter becomes part of the filter. Also, I can tell you if somebody cuts and pastes a form of a motivation letter, so they copy from something on the internet, yeah, our software tells us that you copy from the internet, it's plagiarism, and if you can't write an original motivation letter, why would I want you on my MBA program? So I'm looking for something that you've written yourself that tells me a lot about you and a lot about your character. And actually sometimes that's quite important as well. If there is something happened that may have stopped you from getting a bachelor's or whatever you think there might be something in the way, then again, we actually sit down and discuss it. We look at everything as a little board and say, well, given this motivation or whatever it is, would we make an exception in this case? Is this worth doing? And also, does it meet the general requirements of what we're trying to do with MSM as a business school, creating leaders who are going to make a difference, and particularly, if we can do, leaders who are going to make a difference in a sustainable way and developing their countries, or will at some point go back to their countries and make a difference. That doesn't mean to say that that is a filter, because many people come on our programs wanting to come into Europe as well. If you're coming from outside of Europe, that's not an issue. But we want to have people of quality and get up and go to go and make a difference somewhere in the company they're in at the moment, or go off and do something else.
I think we will answer all the questions. So you will receive personally the one that we didn't have time to answer now in the webinar. But we would like to thank you so much for your time, and we really look forward to see your application. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you. This webinar will be put online anyway, and we've had a question about the slides as well, and I'm sure that's part of it. So thanks.
Thanks.